As we still get a hang of our Patreon plan, I just want you to know that this ain't the fault of my man. I'm gonna shout out the patron here. It's Kikagaro and he's my dear. Kikagaro. On to the video.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stack. Welcome back if you've been here before. I'm neonmushroom, and this is the second of our deck interviews from the Commander Legends gameplay that we did. We did 2 games. I did the first deck tech on Sakashima and Vial Smasher, and Guy is here to do the deck tech on his deck. What's up, Guy? How you doing?
Not much. I'm very excited to talk about this deck.
I bet you are. You know, it's fun. I live with this person, so I've got to hear him talk about building the deck. And up until the point where we recorded the game, there was a lot of like talk of, I don't know how good this deck's gonna be. And I was like, yeah, well, I don't know how good Blim Comedic Genius can be either. And then we played the games and it turned out you won the first game we played.
I think we played on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I think it was Christmas in Blim.
That must be what happened. So just really quick, the only way we can get into this interview is if we understand kind of who your commander is, what it wants to do. So I guess read the card, and then what your game plan is to start with. So we'll start with Blim Comedic Genius. Can you read us that card?
Yeah, so Blim the Comedic Genius is a 4-mana creature, 2 colorless, 1 red, 1 black. It's a 4/3 with flying. We'll read it off the card. When Blim Comedic Genius deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of target permanent you control. Then each player loses life and discards cards equal to the number of permanents they control but don't own.
Now, under the impression that you're not playing that commander to not use that giant paragraph of text as a game plan, right?
Right.
Your game plan has to be to, like, I'm imagining you want to give your opponent some of these disgusting cards that I'm looking at that I don't think you want to have.
Almost never.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me. Okay, so we kind of know what your commander does. We know what the game plan is roughly, which is, just correct me if I'm wrong, but based on the gameplay, it seems like you actually just want to use Blim's ability verbatim.
You're all in.
You're all in on Blim, which I think is awesome. I love going all in on the commander. That's super cool. And I guess what makes the most sense is let's go through like kind of your level 0 game plan. You know, what the turns 1 to 6 kind of look like, how you're going to execute this game plan. And then we'll kind of get into more of your, I see you've got all your cards put out into different selections, different subtypes, and we'll go over those categories individually a little bit. Not too in-depth, but a little bit in-depth. But I'd like to start off with, like, what's your game supposed to look like from your first, turn to, like, turn 6 or 7?
So when I'm goldfishing on my phone, there's always a turn 1 mana crypt. There's always a gemstone cavern in my opener. So Blim comes out on turn 1 with protection. No. So ideally, you're ramping on turn 2. You're trying to play as many reasonable 2-mana rocks. I ended up cutting like the fire diamonds and the charcoal diamonds because ramp that comes with a tap isn't that great.
Right. Are you playing any of the they're not the diamond effects, but they're the like
I had played
jet
medallion.
Medallion effects. Yeah, you're saying playing jet medallion. Are you playing ruby?
This deck's basically just got a splash of red.
It's mostly black.
It's mono black with extra steps.
It's black dose.
Black dose, yeah.
Cool.
So,
but you do have like the usual suspects in Rakdos Signet. I see you've got your Arcane Signet as an auto including just about everything, and then you've got, which is a shame because it makes more sense to play Arcane Signet in your mono blue deck than to play Sapphire.
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
I think Wizards said that maybe we shouldn't have made that card.
Yeah, I think Wizards actually said that, but it's too late now.
Yeah, it's too late now. I love playing it, but it does every deck secretly has only 98 cards in it.
90, well, yeah, and then 97 because Soul Ring, and then Command Tower. So 90.
And you're playing your partners and your companions.
Yeah, we can go down that line
joke.
for 20 minutes. But yeah, nothing crazy in here. I see you're playing Wayfarer's Bauble. Mitch would be proud. You've got Mana Vault and Mana Crypt, so it seems like you're kind of all in on playing Blim a turn early,
or to play him with protection.
Being able to protect your queen.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's super important when you're going all in on one card. This deck looks really bad without him on the battlefield. So
what does your curve look like? Because you've got Blim, so you need to cast Blim at some point, and I see you've got a Hall of the Bandit Lord in your mana base, so sometimes it just has haste. Also, you probably have Lightning Greaves and things like that.
Greaves and Boots.
You got Greaves and Boots, so sometimes your Blim's going to come in and have haste, which is great.
Yeah.
But there's games where you're going to play your Blim and just protect him while he's hanging back. That means at some point, ideally, between you casting your Mana Rock and casting your Blim, you either want to drop something you want to donate in between there, or on the first turn, you're able to attack with Blim. So let's get into some of those permanents that you want to play that you're going to try to gift to your opponents.
Right. So there's a couple that come into play under your opponent's control, like xantcha is great. We've seen that on the
Which
channel
is
before.
great because Blim doesn't care how your opponent got a hold of your thing.
Exactly.
As long as, if he plays xantcha, and his opponent now controls his xantcha, well, when he triggers Blim, this Blim's going to go, that's our xantcha, so you discard another card and lose another life.
And then you can give something to someone else, and now you're
Absolutely,
being more efficient.
You're being more efficient. And that's another thing I wanted to get into is, like, I see you've got some cards that just force your opponent to discard cards, which I think is good because Blim's kind of doing that as well.
Right.
But now I'm deviating from the purpose, which is to kind of get into some of these cards. I don't know what order you wanted to list them in, but we've got a lot of cards that it doesn't seem like you want to actually have on your side of the battlefield for the most part. And some of these cards, it seems like you can care less whose part of the battlefield they are.
Yeah.
Because it's a global effect for the most part.
Those are probably like the highest priority of cards that you like. If they're in your opener, you're probably pretty happy. Like Sphere Resistance, it doesn't matter where it is, it's doing its job.
Yeah.
Blood Moon, the cards like that. Smoke's really cool.
Mana Barbs, the game that I can't remember if it was the first game or the game that I won, but you cast the Mana Barbs and it was brutal.
Yeah, Calvin he killed it as soon as he could.
He generous gifted the Mana Barbs. It was hilarious.
So it's secretly a Stax deck where you're trying to play into this gimmick of Blim where you're giving them away, and it's cute and fun. Some of the payoffs and like really this is the first card that slipped in my mind once I saw this commander. Was Demonic Pact.
Yep.
A card I fell in love with and was printed in Origins.
Yeah, you can just read this at the beginning for 2 black and 2 colorless.
Yeah.
Mind you, for an enchantment. It's one of these lich effects where you pick one that hasn't been picked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of your upkeep, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Deals 4 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 4 life. Target opponent discards 2 cards. You draw 2 cards, or you lose the game. And
oh yeah.
Ideally, in a perfect world,
non-Christmas land, somebody else has that.
Yeah, you give it to them after you squeezed all the juice out of it. And you're like, well, you can have this.
That's what you want to do, but it's also like the longer that's sitting on your side of the field, the riskier it is.
You're willing to give it up after you see your card draw or whatever.
This deck is kind of the equivalent of like making drugs in a trailer.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like there's at any point it could just blow up in your face.
Yeah.
Like,
it seems like I was recently watching, I can't remember who put out the game, they're playing that Obika, the Grixis girl who can end the turn. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of setups that involve like, I want to do this thing because I'm going to end the turn and make the bad man go away.
And someone's just like,
and then someone goes,
kill it.
Actually, it's dead. It's like, oh, the bad man's not going away. So you can run into that same problem.
Absolutely. It's kind of hilarious because there's this card right here, Grid Monitor.
Mm-hmm.
It just says you can't play creature spells.
So
your pants can get ripped right off.
Yeah, if you just play Grid Monitor and your Blim gets answered before you can gift it,
you're done.
You can't play your commander. That's so bad.
It's really bad. But I mean, it could be really fun. Who knows?
Yeah.
Only play 2 games with it. It's a card that could get cut.
Yeah, 100%. So you kind of get the point. You're playing Blim. You're protecting Blim. You're trying to gift garbage to your people who are supposed to be your friends, and they're not your friends. This is very clear. And then we've got some other things. Like is this all designated card draw here?
Yeah, we're trying.
That's what's great about having black.
Yeah, black actually has secretly some.
There's actually a really powerful card here that I'm gonna pull out, and it's just maybe we should talk about it for a minute because of how this Waste Not is just phenomenal.
Waste Not was a big winner in the game that I did well in, for obvious reasons. Not just the interaction with Blim, but also because Calvin had Necrogenesis out, so everyone was discarding at their upkeep. And I had Waste Not out, and it worked.
It was brutal. Like every time people discarded lands, it was. Well, not that good, really. But every time they did anything else, that's true. That happened less often. But Blim could certainly cause that to happen. Well, it was in combat, so it didn't come up that often.
There's some nombos there,
but the drawing cards and the 2/2 black zombie creatures, brutal. You've got some of the normal,
because you can
usual
gift the
suspects
zombies.
Too. Yes, you can, and you did. You actually gifted Aiden one of the zombies in one of the games we played.
Yeah.
So you've got these read the bones. You've got these normal black one-time draw effects next to your cards. You're like your necropotents. And your Phyrexian Arena, just good black cards that you play in.
Yeah.
Most of the black decks I've seen you build. And then there's also some really, did we talk about Silent Arbiter and how good that actually is in this deck?
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's a 1/5, so you don't mind giving to somebody else because it's not going to beat you up.
Right.
And it makes,
I think
it keeps people from beating you up.
Yeah, exactly. This Blim deck actually plays very few creatures from what I can see here. And all you care about is getting through Blim, who has natural evasion as it is. Which is super solid. Looks like your basics are high enough. I see you've got a Blood Moon. Looks like you've got enough basic lands, so that's not going to be a huge issue for you.
Right.
And then some of the other stuff I wanted to talk about, just maybe more briefly, is some of the pieces in your deck that kind of aren't so much pieces of a Blim deck as they are pieces of a really good Rakdos commander deck.
Yeah.
Because you've kind of got it built around a shell of like, this is why Rakdos is a good color pairing.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah, you have to play the good cards. You got no choice. You're already playing with a commander that's kind of like goofy and on a good day. You know, I think you were rewarded for the pod you played in.
I was in the right place at the right time.
All things said, this deck still performed quite well. You almost won the second game too. But let's talk a little bit about some of like the more, I don't want to say generic cards, but cards that you would see in decks that don't necessarily want to give away all their permanents, like these two piles specifically. Things like your tutors and your board wipes.
Play Expedition map.
Expedition.
Just get that out of the way. That's there's all sorts of juicy good lands you want to play.
Hall of the Bandit
Hall
Lord.
of the Bandit Lord, Ancient Tomb, that Bojuka Bog when you got.
She's a death storehouse when if your clones have flyers. Shizo pretty much just shuts that down on the spot.
Yeah, it's plenty of goodies there, and it's a cheap card. Pick them up. This first pile over here is just generically good discard cards. You can't play like 60 cards that you want to donate because you're probably only going to connect with Blim 3 or 4 times a game at most on a good day. So you got to have something else that you're doing with your time when you're mad when Blim's in the command zone.
Right.
Discard. Lean into it. Arterial flow. Each opponent discards. It's a reverse divination. Each opponent discards 2 cards, which is great.
Yeah, these all seem phenomenal. Words of Waste is a very powerful enchantment.
It's wild.
Yeah, it just seems like once you get to a point where you've got the game kind of locked down, you can just forego your draw step ad nauseum. Yeah. And then over here we've got, this is just solid interaction. That's one nice thing about playing Rakdos is you do get to play Terminate. You get to play, I see you take the suggestion of playing Shredded Sails.
I want to make a point of that. Shredded Sails was actually a really good ad for this card that I didn't really think about at all. Just to tell everyone what it does if you don't know. It's a 2-mana instant.
From Ikoria, that's why you might not know because it's fairly new.
Very new. 1 colorless, 1 red, instant. Choose 1. Destroy an artifact or deal 4 damage to target creature with flying, and it has cycling too. So for 2 mana, you can either draw a card at instant speed, you can deal with a problematic artifact, or you can get a blocker out of the way.
It's effectively this wild monocolored charm.
Yeah.
It's a wildly powerful card. And I think it's specifically good in Blim because it takes care of flying blockers, which can be an issue in and of themselves. And there's a lot of artifacts that are really going to cause you problems, depending on what types of decks you're playing against.
No doubt.
Yeah, and that's just generically true for Commander in general, but especially in a deck that's trying to go all in on a specific game plan. There's always going to be that moment where someone's going to have something that completely shuts you down. Like, maybe it's even, I'm trying to think of some artifacts that really shut down Blim, but I don't have infinite knowledge. But there's a lot of wild artifacts out there that can just shut plans down.
Grid Monitor is a pretty good start.
Grid Monitor is a pretty good start, yeah, absolutely. Blowing up your own Grid Monitor. Wow.
Maybe you need to
Sometimes maybe you have to do that. You got your Biforce and your Snuff out as well. Deadly Rollick, just efficient removal. And then you've got some tutors. You said play Expedition Map. Definitely play Expedition Map, especially in a deck where you're relying on your lands. And then you got Vampire Tutor and Demonic Tutor. Do we really need to talk about that, you guys? I don't think we do. You tutor for the good cards and you put them in your hand. And Deluge and Damnation.
Yep, just good, clean board wipes.
Play them. And what makes this deck so interesting is playing it more than... Because you look at it, because when you look at it, this deck looks a little cumbersome. And it's like the second...
And it is.
But the second you start to play it, it gets super interesting. Because all these cards have different contexts next to Blim himself.
Correct. It's you're definitely trying to thread a needle. You can never be the loudest person at the table.
No.
And this deck, like at its best, it can only play with like others, 6s at best. It's not a very strong deck. There's going to be some weird clunky hands.
Seems well put together. We've also got some. This is just important. We've got Deflecting Swat, Imp's Mischief, and Bolt Bend. And I see you have them with your Lightning Greaves and your Swiftfoot Boots. Protecting Blim is really important. Deflecting Swat comes out to me as like a super powerful card in this deck, just because people are gonna like instantly try to kill your Blim off.
You would think so. I would think so. I would assume so. But the kind of funny thing about this deck is because it's kind of like clunky dunky.
100%.
There's probably somebody else who's like, we gotta take care of that guy, and Blim's just like, I'll help.
Yeah, he's gonna.
I got this.
He's gonna help you out real good.
I'm gonna help you.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for letting us check out this deck. I think we're going to try to keep this video a little shorter than the last one that Calvin and I cut because I think we almost went through like every card in the deck, and that's not what these deck interviews are for, but we are going to keep trying to what's the word for it? To get the formula for these games right. Hopefully this is Friday. That's when this is supposed to come out. And if that's the case, look forward to Saturday. This will be Saturday. So look forward to Monday. We got another gameplay video for you guys. All that said, thanks for coming on, Guy. Thank you guys for watching, and as always,
Deck lists in the description.
deck lists are in the description.